I lost track of time. Kevin, sorry about that.
All good.
Very quick housekeeping, super quick. We need a final count for our time with Brandy Chastain. So if you want to hang out with a soccer Hall of Famer, two-time Olympic gold medalist, two-time World Cup champ, we're going to be hanging out with her at her team's game, Bay FC in San Jose, July 6th. If you want to go to the U.S. Open with us, we also need to know about that. And then our retreat is September 29th. So we still have some spots left. We call it Living with Legends because we have 5 legends that you don't just see them on a stage, you actually live with them for 4 days. So Robert Hamilton Owens, aka the most interesting man in the world, is one of them. Joe Jacoby, Olympic gold medalist, is another. So we'll be kayaking with Joe and desperately trying to keep up with him. Mace Curran is our third, so she's the second female to ever fly lead solo for the Thunderbirds. Megan Riley from Shark Tank, and now a incredible keynote speaker, is our fourth, and Jackie Summers, who runs or created the world's most awarded liqueur, is our 5th legend. So we are ready to go for Rhode Island. We're going to be staying at the #1 hotel in the Northeast, top 100 in the world, the Weekapaug Inn, with all these crazy people and having a blast. So that's what we have coming up. I appreciate everybody's support of Outlier Magazine. Our subscribers are growing and growing and growing. So it's very cool to see the magazine in people's hands, and our next edition, our summer edition, will be out late June, thanks to the efforts of Victoria and Kathy and Melissa. But anyway, that's not why we're here today. We are here actually, let me step back. For anyone who's new to these calls, this is the format. I'm going to do like a little fireside chat with Kevin for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for live Q&A. If you have a question for Kevin, just drop in the chat that you've got a question, and then we will tee you up and you can ask your question directly to Kevin. Kevin Rempel is a special guy. So he is an incredible keynote speaker. His story is bananas, and we're going to get into that. He's an entrepreneur. He's a Paralympic athlete, 2015 World Championship silver medal, 2014 Paralympics in Sochi, Russia, bronze, 2013 World Championship gold, 2012 World Championship bronze. He is, when I think about Kevin, I think he is like resiliency and grit personified. And I am really excited for you guys to get to know him. So without any further ado, Kathy, hit it.
That was dope.
What'd you think, Kevin?
That was
We're,
serious. That was wicked.
right? Right? We're
Yeah,
not fooling around here.
for
Anyway,
real.
I am beyond excited to have you here. So thank you first and foremost for carving out time to hang out with a bunch of outliers. You must feel right at home.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm just hanging out in my backyard in my hoodie because I just feel like I can just chill with everyone and super excited to just like yeah, hang and have a good time.
I love it. So let's start. I have tons of questions for you, but let's start. You were in your, I think, early 20s, super into motocross, uh, dreaming of the X Games, and you started doing jumps in front of big audiences, and you're in magazines and all that stuff. Uh, those are the good times. Tell us a little bit about that trajectory. I think you were 23 when things kind of changed a little bit. Tell everybody kind of a little bit of the before and after.
Yeah, you got it. So when I was a kid, I did play stick and ball sports. My parents got me into pretty much everything. But when I saw my neighbors down the street one year get dirt bikes for Christmas, as soon as I heard the sound and I just saw the speed, I was like just literally drawn to my kitchen window watching them ride out in the backyard field. So begged and begged my dad for years to get me a bike. Took 2 years. He finally caved and started out trail riding, got into racing, and then freestyle motocross came on the scene in like 98, 99. It was introduced into the X Games. I just realized I wasn't cut out for racing, started pursuing freestyle, and I eventually met some other riders with ramps, and that kind of like made it real, jumping bigger gaps. Dreamt of the X Games. Didn't know if I would necessarily make it to that level, but I at least wanted to give it a shot and be the best I could be locally in Ontario here in Canada, where I've grown up. So yeah, started at the so I mean I was riding since the age of 12, but I was 23 when I was like going for it. I started a business to put on shows because nobody would hire me. Uh, perform my first show, Canada Day, July 1st, 06. And then 2 weeks later, second show, wasn't mentally focused. First jump of the day, took off. And because I wasn't focused on my body position, the rear end came up and midair, I had to just make a decision to stay on or jump off. I decided to ditch the bike and free fell 75 feet without the motorcycle on the steel and broke my back, my pelvis, my ribs, and I was instantly paralyzed.
In that moment, did you think you were going to make it? What was going through your mind?
That I don't know how to fly.
Yeah.
You call it rolling up the windows when you're falling out of the sky and your arms are doing this. Um, yeah, I mean, like in these kind of scenarios, I don't know if anybody or if everybody's necessarily experienced this, but you know, sometimes we'll have these moments where like, a million things go through your head in a second. But the one thing I knew was just trying to land on my feet. And as soon as I crashed, I did not lose consciousness. I remember the whole day, the whole morning. I when I was laying there, the paramedics were over my head, and when I got the air in my lungs, I tried to move my legs and I couldn't. And I put my hand on my leg, and as soon as I put my hand on my leg and I couldn't feel my leg, the first thought was, "Oh fuck, I'm paralyzed." Um, but I also knew in that moment that like, yeah, like my life was my life was gonna change forever. That's for sure.
And the crazy part of the story is you're familiar with somebody being paralyzed.
Yeah. Yep. my dad was also paralyzed 4 years before I was in a hunting accident.
Tell everybody a little bit about that, the journey that he went on, that then 4 years later you were on the same journey.
Yeah, when I was 19 years old, my dad grew up hunting, fishing, and uh, I did that a bit with him, but didn't really have a desire. But when I was 19, decided to get back into it, and yeah, we were out in the bush building a tree stand to hunt deer, and my dad, he was about two stories up roughly, and one of the branches he was standing on broke, and in front of my own eyes, I just heard the crack, and I see my dad go bat 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 bat, like just threw the side of the tree off right in front of my own eyes and smack and hit the ground. And yeah, in that accident, my dad broke his back as well, and he was 50 years old. He was 8 months from retirement. So my dad definitely felt like all that he'd worked his whole life to enjoy retirement, and it was taken away, felt like it was taken away from him. And a quick nuance of a difference too, the difference between a difference, one of many differences between me and my dad. My dad, he became a complete paraplegic, and I'm an incomplete paraplegic. So the difference is, although I broke my back, I had just fractured and dislocated my vertebrae, so my spinal cord was pulled and pinched, and that cut off all the feeling, the movement, in when the accident happened. But my dad, he severed his spinal cord. So I at least had a chance to get better. My dad did not have a chance to get better physically.
Do you think that's why he lost hope and you didn't?
So for sure. So to continue this part for context, my dad unfortunately became super, like, very negative and cynical and pessimistic about life and angry about the situation. And I understand why. But that attitude drove away our family and friends. And my dad picked up a gambling addiction because he couldn't enjoy his pension money in retirement. He's like, I can spend it how I want to. And mom ended up leaving dad after 5 years, not because of his disability, but because of my dad's attitude towards his disability. My mom would have stuck through thick and thin. She already did through her high and hell water for 5 years. But my dad, I won't go. I don't need to right now, though, to go into detail. But he just had a really shitty attitude. And my sister and I and my grandmother, we supported my mom in her decision to leave because of how he was taking out his anger and frustration on mom and other people, including us, myself and my sister. And then unfortunately, 7 weeks after my mom left, my dad took his own life.
And, for somebody who is in your position, um, struggling with, going from being an elite athlete to all of a sudden I'm paralyzed, I'm sure, or I know from our conversations, that suicidal ideations were definitely there. Um, what was it that kept you from taking that same path?
Yeah, there were a number of I learned a lot from my dad, and my dad was a good dad, by the way, too. It's like, I don't want to paint a picture that he was like, I know that my dad did the best he could with what he had and what he knew, kind of deal. Um, and his generation is very different than my generation. So I love my dad. I forgive my dad. I understand. It's all good. But sorry, I'm trying to remember, Scott, what you said. Like, what was the lesson, or like, why didn't I choose a path? So
Right.
what I wanted to say is that, like, one of the things that in life is we learn what we want by, like, learning what we do want learning what we don't want is just as valuable as learning what we do want.
Yep.
Like both point us in the right direction. And we can be inspired or we can choose to rebel, kind of thing. And unfortunately or fortunately, I learned more from my dad about what I didn't want
Yep.
than what I did want. And so, as an example, when my dad took his life, at the time when it happened, I was just numb to everything that was happening. Like I was completely numb in my life. But about a year later, tried some Percocets from a spinal cord friend of mine, hooked in on an addiction within 2 weeks, and I was suicidal myself. And when I thought about, because I did think about doing the same thing as my dad. I was 2 a.m. with a knife in my hand, drinking beer and bottle of pills, and I was like, I had the knife on my chest, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, what would I do if I just were to go all the way? But what I literally thought to myself is that I don't want that to be the ending to my story.
Yep.
And I don't, and that the final chapter has not been written yet. And I also thought to myself, I don't want to start something in my family that I don't want to continue. Because if my dad did it and then it gives me permission to do it and then I do it, is that going to give my mom permission to do it, my sister permission to do it, my friends permission to do it? Like, I don't want to start that. I want to start things that people want to continue, that are inspired by. And so in that moment, I fucking slammed the knife down. It was a cheap blade. A blade broke off. I went in my cupboard. I grabbed my bong out of the fridge because I was smoking weed. I literally took the fucking hammer. I smashed my bong inside my kitchen sink. Glass goes shattering everywhere. I dumped all the alcohol down the sink. I fucking flushed the pills. I know you're not supposed to flush pills now, but like I just got rid of it all. And I said, I'm fucking doing whatever I got to do to turn this ship around. And one day at a time, it was, go eat an apple, go to the gym, make sure you go to get some sleep. And just to my life to this day, long story short, has just been small practical steps that all of us can take. But the moment, one of many, was just deciding I don't want that to be the ending of my story. And each of us every single day get to choose left road, right road, in the micro moments and in the macro moments. And it's just, and that was the catalyst about where I started to really, I would say, like if there was one universal core principle of my entire life, it's accept responsibility.
Yep.
And that's
It's
where it really started to
amazing that
turn.
you had the clarity in that moment in your pain, physical and emotional, to make that decision to keep fighting, and to not, to kind of put an end to that cycle, or what could have been, in your mind, a cycle. It's just that's remarkable to me. Um, I doubt there's many people on this call, Kevin, that have never, if we pumped everybody with truth serum and said, have you ever thought of, suicide? Did you ever think that that was an option? I think most people would probably have to answer honestly that the answer is probably yes. As you've gone through your recovery, how do you fight those suicidal ideations?
Number one, well, there's a number of different things. I think number one, self-care is a weapon. Nutrition, sleep, and exercise can do so much for your life to just stay mentally well. Getting outside, fresh air, moving the body, getting your heart rate up, eating good food, sleep. Like I noticed today in my life, even just when I'm like low on sleep, it's like I'm more edgy, I'm more moody, and it's easier for the negative thoughts to creep in. So those three pillars, nutrition, sleep, and exercise, I think are a weapon against negative thoughts. Over the years, like I've today assembled my own coaching program. I call it the Hero Mindset Blueprint. Inside, it's a lot of basic stuff, but the things that I did, I'd share in my keynotes, that every single one of us can do. Like in different variations over the years. You know, when I was in rehab learning to walk again, uh, it was going to the dollar store, buying a piece of Bristol board, going on Google, finding images to create a vision board, and then going to Walmart to print those 4x6 photos, and then using Elmer's glue stick to paste it all together. And then I put it at the end of my bed so that every morning and every night it's the first thing and the last thing that I would look at to program my mind. Journaling, reading. I spent, not today I do it so much, but years I spent with the meditation app, Headspace.
Mhm.
Um, you know, just all the good stuff, the basic stuff that it's easy for us to overlook, but that's literally been the foundation for me to get myself well and to stay mentally well. And the one thing I would just say that you made me think about too is the more the first time I was dealing with depression, it took me about 8 months to get out of it. Like when my dad took his life, when I was like suicidal, that first time it was about 8 months to really feel like I finally got my feet under myself again. About it was several years later. We haven't got into sport yet, but when I was going through depression after Paralympic sport, um, it only took me about 4 months to turn it around because I knew
Mhm.
what I'd already gone through that gauntlet before. And then I kind of had like what I call a relapse about a year later. And it was like 6 weeks kind of deal because I knew the strategies and the steps to take. And as I'm sharing here with everyone, like what I want to encourage is like, I haven't mentioned this yet, but like, you got to find what works for you. And I've tried it all. And I encourage you to try it all as well. I have called the suicide hotline 3 times in my life. And I got no bones about it because that was the help I needed at that time. I have gone to a psychologist. I worked with a psychologist for 4 years after my accident. I've worked with this psychiatrist. I've gone to the family doctor, family friends. Um, I've also walked myself into the emergency psychiatric ward. I've never hurt myself. I'm super proud of that. I've never attempted anything, but I knew when I got to the worst places that I needed to learn from my dad, that I needed to reach out and ask for help because another share I deliver my keynotes I learned from my dad. I call it the 3 A's: admit, ask, accept. First steps to admit we're struggling. That's okay. My dad would not admit that he's struggling because people will say, I'm like, I'm fine. I got it. I can handle it on my own. And we get in our own way. So first step is to admit we're struggling. That's cool. Get out of our own way. Number two, ask for help because no one often knows we're struggling unless we say something. We're so good at putting on a mask and pretending. And then number three, when the help's in front of you, accept the help.
Mhm.
So if someone says, read this book, listen to this podcast, write this down, you got to do it. But my dad, he'd have appointments with psychologists, psychiatrists, he'd cancel, postpone them, and he'd push people away. He would not accept the help in front of him. So I share all this because like I learned so much from my dad about how not to be, how I didn't want to live my life. So when I was in those moments, it's like reach out and ask for help right away. Someone says, do this, I'm going to try it. It doesn't work. I'm going to keep trying to find a solution that does work for me. And it's just the small steps, but it's like just getting out of our own way is a big deal, life and business, and keep trying until you find something that works.
Incredible advice. I'm debating in my mind, do I stay on the hero mindset in those three principles, or do we go to, you know, your journey from paralyzed to the podium? I'm gonna let you pick.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I dig either. I mean, I'd actually, so I don't, not that I don't want to talk about Paralympic sport, but I don't talk about it a lot because I feel like there's so much more juice in the life journey that got me to
Yeah,
Paralympic sport, and sport just kind of gives me the, um, excuse me, if, to be blunt, like maybe notoriety to share my story.
yeah.
But even my autobiography I wrote, out of 20 chapters, only 2 chapters I think are sport. The rest are life.
Hmm.
So yeah, Paralympic sport was awesome. I mean, after my accident, after dad passed, just, kept searching, kept trying, move forward. Learned sledge hockey existed. It's so sick. It's the one place where you legally, I don't know if, by the way, it's where you play hockey sitting down for people with disabilities. It's full pace, fast pace, it's full contact, hard hitting. And what I was going to say, it's the one place where it's legal to hit people with disabilities. Yeah, and it's sweet. Like, I mean, there's so many awesome people in the community, and brought me around the world and got my name out there. And speaking was a fluke. You know, I never planned to be a speaker. I was asked to share my story after my dad passed at a fundraiser for Spinal Cord Injury Ontario. But people said, "Hey, that was great. Would you do it again?" They said, "Hey, that was great. Would you do it again?" And now 15 years later, that's literally my full-time job, is sharing my story. But yeah, it's more about the life journey than it is about sport. It's like all the shit that goes on behind the scenes to get to the podium. It's like, that's what I love sharing with people.
Yeah. That elite athlete mindset had to play a big role.
Yeah. I mean, my motocross, one of the things that I remember thinking too, and this is a life lesson I think that we can all take, you know, when one thing doesn't work, when one door closes, another one opens. You know, I had my dreams of being a pro rider in freestyle motocross, didn't work out. And, you know, for 2 years after my accident, I did not even know the sport of Paralympics even existed. The only Paralympic sport I knew was wheelchair racing. So sometimes when we have a setback or a detour or something happens in our life, it's like you may not be able to see what's on that other side yet. If I had given up in that 2 years, I would have never even got to the introduction of Paralympic sport, let alone making Team Canada, let alone going to the Paralympics. So one of the big lessons is like, don't count yourself out too early, because, you know, you just might not be able to see what's on the other side for you yet. But yeah, so when I learned about sledge hockey, what I said to myself was, maybe this is just a way that I can live my motocross dreams through sledge hockey.
Yep.
And I wish that I had the opportunity to go all in high performance athlete in motocross, and I didn't. So yeah, it was a redirection over here. And it was like, you know, I sacrificed everything I thought I needed to in terms of like time, energy, money. I, you know, gave my notice to move out of my apartment so I could live closer to the other teammates to train and get more ice time before I even had a place to live. And we can talk about different HPA, like high performance strategies, but yeah, it was definitely like, that was one of the most cool parts about the experience, is like, we're all trying to unlock our own human potential in life. And, what I remember thinking is like, if there's a chance to do it, it's like, don't waste this opportunity.
Yeah, there's so much. I've got one more question for you before I unleash the hounds here, who are chomping at the bit. There's a bunch of things you talk about in the hero mindset, but one that I think is so important is that you have to stop being a victim. And I think that one's really hard for people, because being a victim is very seductive, because when you're a victim, you don't have to take responsibility for anything. It's, I'm a victim, so I don't really have to take responsibility. What's your recommendation? How do people not get seduced into being that victim mindset?
Number one, if you allow yourself to stay stuck in the victim, or if you, with a victim mindset, you will stay stuck. That's the punchline. With a victim mindset, you will stay stuck. So you can sit there and you can dwell and you can point the finger and, you know, stew in your own pot as long as you want to, but without accepting personal responsibility, your life is not going to move forward, or your business is not going to move forward. In other areas it might, but that you'll stay stuck with that thing. And so I know that for many people, and for example, people with spinal cord injuries often cannot accept they've had a spinal cord injury. They feel like, unless I learn to walk again, unless I get back 100% to my old life, I am not happy. I am not satisfied. I am not going to allow my life to move forward. And it's sad, because you see so many people sit and sulk and dwell in sadness and destroy themselves and their lives around them. I literally, in the last like week, like 2 days ago, and then even the last month, spoke with two other guys. One guy was 46, the other guy's like early 30s, who had spinal cord injuries, and they stopped working. Relationships. The one guy now is heading into divorce, living in his mom's basement, and he's got 2 kids. And like the wife's not leaving you because you're paralyzed. The wife's leaving you because of your attitude. And for people that are struggling, the question to ask yourself, this was struggling with acceptance, the question to ask yourself is, what do I need to let go of? So what do I need to let go of? Do I need to let go of old vision and goals? Do I need to let go of past relationships? Do I need to let go of expectations? Do I need to let go of my old identity? That's the first step, to identify what do you need to let go of. And then the second step is to ask yourself, in terms of creating your new future, what do I want to be, do, or have with this new situation or scenario that I have? So it's not enough to just accept, but decide, what do you want your future to look like? How can you move forward? So even if you have a spinal cord injury or whatever it is, even divorce, let's say, another punchline here that I try to help so many people understand: acceptance does not mean giving up. People with spinal cord injuries think, oh, if I accept my injury, that means that I just like lay back and I'm going to be disabled and like my life's over. No, that is not the case at all. You still keep trying to learn how to walk. You still keep working to get your life back. You still go out to find love, build a family, get a job, whatever it is you do. It just means you don't stay stuck in what once was. You focus on what is and creating what could be.
Incredible. So incredible. My time is up because I gotta let all of these eager folks ask their questions. So you ready, Kev?
I'm fucking fired up. Let's bring
All
it.
right, let's go. Paul in Florida, you're up.
Oh, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible. I can relate as well. I feel like my parents taught me kind of what not to do in life. I'm really curious for you on a performance standpoint. I find that the biggest challenge for a lot of people is execution, right? A lot of people start things, but few finish. And I'm curious for you, what would you say has been probably the biggest key, either personally for yourself or from your experiences, that has really helped you finish the things that you started?
That's a pretty cool question. Like just in terms of how you worded it. I think something that comes to mind for me is, this is probably not the answer that many people think about, but like giving yourself grace, that things take time. So I'll parallel that to a spinal cord injury again. Like when people ask me like, how long did it take you to learn how to walk again? Well, I was on my feet in a year. Like I wiggled my first toe back after about 6 weeks, 4 months rehab, 2 months wheelchair. I was standing and even back on the motorcycle in a year, but it was 3 to 4 years to become independent, strong enough that I could wake up in the morning, make my breakfast, go to school without passing out, come back home, go to the gym, and do my homework before I go to bed. Like it was 3 to 4 years. And over time, I started to notice a pattern of 4 years. The Olympics is a 4-year Olympic cycle. When I started pursuing freestyle motocross, I was 23 when I got hurt, and I'm just, at the time I felt like I was peaking, but I was about 19 when I started to like go into learning tricks. And so what I feel like when people look at my life as being resilient, you're looking at a 20-year window. Like a lot of the things that I've done that may seem impressive were achieved over a very long period of time. And so in order to like keep going, like that, I mean, those two words, keep going, are a mantra that I would repeat to myself, and give yourself grace. Like, hey, if you didn't, like, I mean, if you're trying to do 75 hard and you got to hold yourself accountable, then you got to do the task. But if you're like trying to start a business and you haven't achieved, the outcome in 18 months, it's like, hey, well, like, can you give it 4 years? Can you extend your time horizon and give yourself some grace that, big things, important things take time to achieve.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can't wait to connect on LinkedIn.
I think we got you. I think I got you already. I'll follow up for sure.
Mondo.
Kevin, thank you for this. This has been awesome so far. As I'm listening to you speak, there's a saying that goes, a healthy man wants everything in the world, and an unhealthy man only wants one thing. And granted, like, you've overcome a lot, and between the physical side of things, the mental side of things, whatever way you slice and dice it, obviously there's been times where you've been quote unquote unhealthy, for lack of a better way to put it, right? How do you maintain that perspective as time goes on, now that you're, I don't want to say on the other side of it, but again, for lack of a better way to put it, how do you maintain that perspective moving forward?
Yeah, I totally get it. Like, I've definitely, I guess I would say, at times struggled with, like, I've worked so hard to walk again, to get back into a normal life, that when I'm hanging out with my able-bodied friends, how would I say it? It's like there's times where I forget that I have a disability, and then there's other times where it just smacks me in the face and I'm like, holy shit, even though I'm walking, I'm like super disabled. Like, muscle spasms, chronic pain, pins and needles, bowel and bladder issues all day, every day for the rest of my life. Never stops. A couple of things that come to mind for me, as cliche as this may sound, like gratitude, just being grateful for what I do have. Number two, I still am connected with the sledge hockey community and have a number of friends with disabilities. So my friend Chris, I would love he's not a famous person. He's under the radar, but my buddy Chris, he's a paraplegic. He's in a wheelchair full time, and he's my landscaper. He comes here and like hauls a sledgehammer to crush concrete and yank out bushes, and will crawl his body across the lawn to like cut a hedge and load it into his truck by himself. And so in order to like help me just kind of stay positive, it's like just keeping myself around, good people, other people that are in the same place brings perspective and gratitude too. Like, there's many days that I still genuinely like count my blessings, that it's like I can walk, I can do stairs, and I know what it's like to regress. I've had my health go back pretty far in the last couple of years when the pandemic took away recreational sport. So I've had to fight to get it back again in the last few years. And perspective, just counting your blessings, and that would be my thoughts.
Love it. Bruce in Oregon.
Kevin, your story is just blowing me away. Thank you so much for your time. You were such an inspiration. So my question to you is, how do you think your father would have reacted to your incredible transformation had he lived? And do you think that you could have somehow influenced him or inspired him to have done the same?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bruce. That's a great question. Not one that I've really thought about too much. Like, how would the situation been if I was injured before my dad? And I also think that my situation would have been different if I was injured before my dad, because like I had my dad's like the 4 years or so, like the 4 years leading up to my accident, to understand what SCI life is like. We already had our home renovated with wheelchair lifts and an accessible roll-in shower. I know that if my dad could see me, he'd be proud. He was a diehard hockey fan, so much that we have the Toronto Maple Leafs logo engraved on his tombstone. He was that diehard of a Leafs fan. And after I got to go down the hockey world path, like, I know that he would have loved to have been there for so many things. So in terms of like, how could I have inspired my dad? I mean, as a family, we spoke to him, trying to get him out on a four-wheeler hunting. But he's like, if I couldn't do it like I used to, I don't want to do it at all. We talked to him about hand controls. He said, I'll just get mom to drive me around. Like, dad, we tried the best we could with how we knew how to inspire my dad, but he just didn't want to have any of it. And that's what kind of, like I said, drove us away. Like, it's shitty and sad to say, but like, we learned that, we can only do so much to help someone who's not willing to help himself. A saying that I heard a while ago that was impactful for me, only like 8 months ago, was that you can help somebody get up, but you're not required to walk on their behalf. And so, like we as a family, we tried showing my dad, here's options about how you can do things differently. And my dad tried. He did. He was in the backyard trying to garden. He was he painted the boat trailer when he could and stuff, fixed the rust on the truck. He was out there. But in the grand scheme of 5 years, uh, just one sec. Sorry. In the grand scheme of 5 years, it was not where it needed to be.
Appreciate that answer. Scott Heathman.
Hey, Kevin, thanks again for being here. I had an opportunity to host a Wounded Warrior event at the base where I commanded at here a couple years ago. And it's amazing that folks who are not disabled, there are some folks who actually are hesitant to go to those because they feel like it's going to be like this, I don't know how to put it, almost like a feeling sorry for yourself type event. But what they don't realize is that when you get there, it's optimism levels are off the charts, right? It's the funnest thing I've ever been a part of. But what they also don't see, and I'm curious if it's the same way in the Paralympics, are all the things happening in the background that you don't see on TV or wherever. Like there's support events happening because, as you said, people are going through different stages of acceptance still. There's caregiver support programs. There's meditation programs. There's people writing music and painting. And is it like that in the Paralympics? Do they have a lot of that support in the background happening for you all?
I'm not aware of that specifically, like that comes through Paralympic sport, though I would absolutely agree, like Paralympic athletes, I think, are part of those kind of types of communities. Like I've heard, through sledge hockey, how powerful the Wounded Warriors program is down in the United States, and sledge hockey in the United States, like, oh my God, the number of teams and the depth of talent down there is ridiculous, like you say, and the optimism is off the charts. There's just like so many people that are promoting it. I think there's more American players who are open about it just on social media as well compared to Canadian players. But I think if I'm hearing your question correctly and answering this as well, like, yeah, those peer support programs, whatever they are incredibly valuable. And especially, like you say, for the caregivers, like there's so much caregiver burnout. I also 2 days ago was speaking with someone. There was a guy that was injured with a spinal cord injury 8 months ago, weightlifting, fell, barbell, hit the spine when he went down to the ground, fractured his spine. And she stuck with him for 8 months, has decided to leave because she's getting burnt out trying to do it all. And it's not just the person with the injury that's affected, but the people around them, like the brothers, the sisters, the siblings, the spouse, the neighbors. Like those community support programs are incredibly important so that people feel like they're not alone, because it's not just the person with a disability that's going through stuff.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it, Scott.
Jared in Philly.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for the energy, man. I'm ready to run through a wall over here after this today. I appreciate the energy. You said a lot of things that are kind of in line with my beliefs. Like, I'm a huge law of attraction guy, and I feel like the more positive thoughts you have, the better your experience. But the other way, the more negative you have, the worse it can get. When you started to notice going into like your relapses and you start to feel those negative thoughts creeping in, do you have any type of practice or anything that you use to recognize it, flip it around, and get that mentality back where it needs to be?
Yeah, great question too. I used to wonder if I could ever get my mind to a place where, like, let me say this, the negative thoughts never go away, but they can become quieter. I think that was a valuable lesson that I learned permanently, I would say, about 2 or 3 years ago from my coach, David Nagel. He's an entrepreneurial mindset coach, changed my life. In terms of strategies, so I want to actually share something with you. I've only shared this like a couple of times because it just never has really come up. So one of the things that David taught me is the importance of connecting like movement and like emotion in order to quiet negative thoughts. So I'll give you an example. Like, one of the statements that David taught me is that as you speak to your subconscious mind, if you notice a negative thought, the statement I learned is, I am in control. Now, how I would enforce this, and I'm not bullshitting, I did this for fucking months, if not longer than a year, possibly. In my bedroom, I have a piece of paper in caps lock letters, I am in control, one of my notes, because it changed my life that day. But if you're at your desk or eating dinner, or I would do it when I'm driving, and I don't recommend because you don't want to get too physical while you're driving, is to clap your hands or stomp your feet and yell what it is that you want to enforce. So when David was teaching me my training and I'd have a negative thought creep in and I would notice it, I'd have to like physically and emotionally connect to what I want to believe. So I would literally be by myself. I'd be like, I am in control. I am in control. No. Like, I would fucking break shit if I had to. But it's like, it's like that you're literally like embedding that into your soul. And as silly as that may sound, when I'd be driving and I'd be dealing with negative shit and I'd be punching my fucking passenger seat. Nobody was beside me. But I would literally fucking backhand my seat. I'd be like, I'm in control. I'm in control. Or my console, I'm in control. I'm in control. And as silly as that sounds, I can feel the goosebumps in my body right now about how much that changed me, letting my subconscious mind know that I'm the fucking boss, not you. We have to be the one to control our mind. And over time, those negative voices will become quieter and quieter, and they're not going to try to creep up and fuck with you anymore, or as much.
Kevin, that does not sound silly at all. Love it, man. Thank you.
It reminds me a little bit about so Jesse Itzler was doing a last man standing race with Chad Wright, who was a former Navy SEAL. And, Chad told him, just say, we don't get tired. And Jesse was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm dying here. And they just kept that mantra going. And it got them through like way past where they thought they could go. And then another guy that we're all friends with, Ken Rideout, just was talking about, he was running, I think it was when he ran this crazy race in Mongolia, and he had never run anything like that. He wound up winning the whole thing, but he was yelling, I don't get tired, and like it psyched everybody out to the point it kept him like in a really great mindset, and it psyched everybody else out so much that he attributed his success in part to just saying that over and over again and speaking it into existence. So I love that stuff.
Well, Jesse shared, he shared, I follow Jesse, love him tremendously as a keynote speaker. And he shared that clip at one of his keynotes. And at the end of his keynote, he got the hype music and everything, but he's like, we don't get tired. You know what it is? We don't get tired. And I'm like, I fucking love that. Yeah. Like, I totally know what you're talking about.
It works. All right. We're going to Spain, all the way to Spain. Joe Jacoby.
Hey, Kevin, I'm absolutely loving this conversation. Thank you so much for the way that you share it. In addition to having been an Olympic athlete, something I don't talk about as much, or not, it doesn't come up. I had for 5 years the opportunity to be the chief executive officer of the U.S. Canoe Kayak Federation in the U.S. During that time, canoeing was added to the Paralympic program. So we had this opportunity to go into the talent development, talent recruitment side of Paralympic sport. So as I was listening to your story, and of course, this is all going through my mind really quickly as I listen to your story. You're 23 when this happened, meaning like relative to a, high level sport, your accident happened to you like late in life relative to your sport career. in canoeing, we actually focused on military veterans that were injured in service. A lot of Olympic sport in the US actually goes the other way. They go with younger kids that had disabilities at a young age. So they were learning with those disabilities at a younger age. It's not right or wrong. It's just choosing which way. Two questions for you. One, on your hockey team, what was like, just if you quickly think about it, what was the breakdown of people who had injuries like later in their life relative to the sports career versus like teammates that had like disabilities like born with them or really early age? And secondly, if you could share like one really positive experience at like from the Olympic Village, Paralympic Village that was good for you, and maybe one that was like kind of made you rethink something that, you know, maybe rubbed you wrong. I'm just curious about this part of your journey. I could talk to you for hours, by the way.
Cheers. Yeah, thanks, Joe. I got you on a couple things here. So in terms of like demographics of the team, it changed a lot. 2010, when I joined the team, I don't know what the average age was, but there was two guys. Vancouver 2010 Paralympics, Team Canada, there were two guys in their 50s, there were two guys in their 40s. Today, I don't think there's a player on the team past 30. So yeah, same, it keeps getting younger. Interesting statistic I heard recently from Spinal Cord Injury Ontario. When I got injured back in 06, the demographics of I don't know the average age, but out of 15 people in my rehab facility, most of them were in their 20s. Today, most of the people in the facility, they say the average age in Toronto right now of SCI injuries is about 60 years old. And I was like, what the hell changed in like 15, 20 years? And they said, from the demographics of the population, there are more people that are elderly in their life, 60s, 70s, and 80s that don't want to slow down, and they're having the slips and falls. They're falling off a ladder. They're trying to fix the eaves trough. It's great that they're staying active, but they're more fragile is one way that they would kind of describe it. So I hear what you're saying. Like, I think for competitive Paralympic sport, yeah, there's a younger demographic always being pursued. But as I spoke with the facility, they said the older demographic is actually starting to fill up their facility more than the young ones are.
Interesting.
In terms of stories, real quick, one positive, at the end of the games, everybody wants to barter with other countries, like clothing especially. And I was scrambling because I'd given away a bunch of my stuff, but the Sochi jackets from the event were like $350 in Canadian dollars. Might only be like $100 US. But anyways, I just had to like find a way to get one of these jackets. And one of the last things I had left was I traded a $10 pair of red Canadian mittens for that $350 jacket. So that was the best barter of my entire life. And not a negative thing, but a funny thing that happened. So, we're in Russia and it's all smooth sailing, let's call it. And we're hanging out with our, what do you call it? Like our guide or translator. And so I said to him, like, dude, I'm like, what's the deal here? You open up Instagram, you see Russia, like people pulling out crowbars and fighting in the street and breaking skulls open. I'm like, but everyone's chill here right now. He goes, ha, this is not the real Russia.
It's a sanitized version for the Olympics.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, Kyle, you got to show that lid you got on. That is an epic outlier lid. Very nice.
Looks nice.
Put those patches to good use.
Love it. Love it.
Kevin, thank you. Like everyone else has said, thank you for sharing your time with us today. I have a question for you that might be overused, but I find the answers that people give pretty interesting. So breaking bread or sharing a meal with somebody or even several people can be an intimate event. So if you could break bread or share a meal with anyone ever, who would those people be?
Tupac. It's been on my mind for years of my life. I don't even know what I would want to ask him. It'd be probably Tupac or Eminem. Dead versus alive kind of deal. They just played such a major influence in my life. Had I had the money when I was younger, I would probably for sure have had a, not probably, for sure would have had a Tupac tattoo on me. I listened to him like 2-3 years nonstop in college. And then, yeah, Eminem just played a big role. So I just want to be around them just to like, it's just as, I don't even have a specific question, but those are the guys. I just want to like be around them for the impact that they had on my life with their music.
That would be one epic rap battle.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right. Our cleanup hitter is Yarrow in Florida.
I think I was first last time, so I'm bookending here. Kevin,
I
thank
love it.
you. You're amazing. And props, continued blessings, and thanks for spending this time and sharing your journey with us. It's been amazing. I have some just random thoughts that came to mind, so I'm going to follow up with you on LinkedIn after this and just shoot you some random thoughts. But my question is, I so appreciate the grace and gratitude that you spoke about in your development and getting through challenges. And I'm at one of those points in my life where I'm trying to redefine, and I feel like there's so many things, that I potentially need to do, working out more, diet, reading, mental health, like all of these pieces. And when I try to manage that into a reasonable add to my days, it's like, well, there's a lot of things. So do you have thoughts or tools that you've used in prioritizing the pieces to get the momentum going that you can then catalyze further?
Yeah. First thing I would just share is like, just pick one. Like, pick one place to start, like, between nutrition, sleep, exercise. My place to start is diet. You may not have the energy to work out and your sleep may be off, but you got to eat 3 times a day no matter what. So that's my go-to first. After that, exercise, because once you make yourself physically tired, you'll probably sleep better. So in terms of like tools, like I can share with you spreadsheets or like templates and worksheet forms and stuff like that I can send you, but like make a simple meal plan. Like just picking like something simple, just to like, I have my staple meals that I eat the same shit all the time. My girlfriend doesn't like it. Too bad, so sad. It's like, I know that I need to eat what I gotta eat so that my body functions well. She's half Japanese and half from Thailand, and so she's like all about like miso soup and sushi, and I'm like, I like that, but my body doesn't function with that. With my spinal cord injury, I need the right foods in my body to function, so that I can digest food and not be in pain when I go to the bathroom. So I would just start with something as simple as like, hey, what are a couple, 3 staple meals that I can go to for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you start to build the spiral or snowball up from there.
Wonderful. Thank you. KISS method, right? Just keep it simple and start moving.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
I do agree though, Kevin. I think when you start with one and you're successful, it just leads to another. When you start eating better, it makes you want to work out. It makes you then want to get your sleep in order, and it has that compounding effect, like all those little wins. And that's the way to do it. One thing that everyone should probably do is like open up your cabinets, take some inventory, and as painful as it is, and this is super hard when you have kids and if you have a spouse who's maybe on a different has different thoughts in terms of food, but just like, you can only eat what's in your house. Like, get rid of all that stuff that you probably shouldn't be eating, and then just bring, you can only eat what's in your house, so just bring in good stuff. But it makes 100%. A world of difference.
I've taken photos before when I just emptied out the cupboards because I realized I got too carried away. Like one snack, 2 snacks, and all of a sudden it's like all you're doing is eating snacks, and it's like fucking overhaul it. Just dump all that shit out and empty the cupboards and start clean. It's a power move.
Yep. Kevin, this has been so much fun, and you keep it real. It's just so refreshing, and I thought this was absolutely tremendous. The best way I can think of to spend an hour is spend it with Kevin. It's inspirational. It's motivating. You're funny. And you're just cool to be around. So I can't thank you enough. So guys, support, Kevin on social media. He makes his living as a keynote speaker. As you see opportunities, send them his way. And we just appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you to each of you for showing up and hanging out today and having me join you as well. Hella fun. I wish I could always do just Q&A and hangout sessions like this. Scott and I were talking about that beforehand, but yeah, I try to keep up on all the ads. I'm connecting with you on LinkedIn, and yeah, please hit me up if you got questions, and love you all. Thanks for the time today too, and hearing me out.
We
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin. We'll see you.
All right, bye everyone. See ya.
Thank you guys for joining. That was a blast.